Under the flickering glare of 1,000 alien cities, the broadcast played across the galaxy. The Empire's emblem glowed gold, framed by rows of medals, trophies, and images of conquered Earth colonies. A synthetic voice proclaimed the cleansing of humanity, their aggressive tendencies corrected, their final enclaves pacified. Crowds cheered on capital worlds. Drinks were raised in crystalline towers. Fireworks exploded over sky-hung cities, celebrating peace achieved through annihilation. The Empire's propaganda machine cycled scenes of submission, prisoners kneeling in the ashes of their homes, the last human ships burning as they broke apart in orbit, settlements turned into desolate graveyards. Executed civilians, listed as combatants. Children labeled resistance operatives. The camera panned over scorched earth soil, over the remnants of forests and cities and life. Victory, the voice echoed. Unity. On the galactic frontier, soldiers watched silently from their stations. Not all were comfortable. Among command elites, there were whispers. Logistics reports didn't match casualty record. Something wasn't lining up. But it was easier not to look too close. Their superiors toasted and moved on. The humans were gone. That was what mattered. In the Imperial War Chamber, alien leaders stood surrounded by hollow displays of newly claimed territories. Earth was divided, its surface to be mined. Mars, Luna, Titan, each now scheduled for colonial repurposing. A senior admiral smirked as he listed how the humans fell for their own defensive doctrine, how quickly they were overwhelmed by orbital saturation and comm disruption. The others laughed, calling humans primitive insurgents with short-lived tech. The extermination was quick, efficient, and final. Yet behind their amusement, a few were uneasy. The war had cost more than expected. Human fleets had damaged key systems, infiltrated intelligence nodes, destroyed Empire dreadnoughts with unconventional tactics. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and still, they fought like predators cornered in the dark. Some in the room had served in the early days of the campaign. They remembered the Terran resistance. They remembered the way Earth fell silent, not because it had surrendered, but because it had stopped transmitting altogether. Then, 3 sectors beyond the rim, a salvage unit uncovered something buried in what used to be New Berlin. A black vault of unknown design. Human make. Encased in triple quantum encryption. Their engineers cracked the outer shell, eager for leftover tech. Inside was no weapon, only data. Files. Archives. Timelines. Retaliation Plan 9. Phase sequences. Human countermeasure programs dated decades ahead of the war's start. One file had a name. Project Lazarus. The tech team laughed. They thought they could win after Extinction. A field commander scoffed and ordered the contents forwarded for archival classification. Nothing in the vault seemed dangerous. But the moment it was connected to the wider grid, sector-wide comms began glitching. Minor at first. Then cascading. Backup AIs rebooted unprompted. Subsystems misread internal temperatures. A logistics drone shipped 80 tons of weapons to an abandoned human colony. Across distant outposts, rumors began spreading. Trade ships reported waypoints blacking out. Patrols vanished in dead space. A deep space station lost power for 20 minutes. When it came back online, its entire crew was gone, no breach, no sign of struggle. Only a message burned into the floor plating: "We are still watching." Empire officials dismissed it all as pirates, system failures, hysteria. But those who had fought humans before recognized the pattern. The silence before escalation. The ghost of organized chaos. Something that didn't make sense unless you believed humanity hadn't lost. 2 weeks later, in the middle of a routine victory broadcast, the signal glitched. The Empire seal warped. The image distorted, pixelated, and then resolved into something new. A figure in red. Uniform pristine. Covered in medals. Golden cords draped over one shoulder. A sidearm rested at her hip. Her face obscured in shadow. Only the voice carried, flat and iron. "You call this peace? We call it massacre. Silence. We didn't lose. We chose quiet. A pause. You celebrate the death of children. You brand surrender as justice. You think we will forgive. You think we will stay gone. You are mistaken. No music. No dramatic score. Just her voice. You took everything. We will take everything back. Not war. Not diplomacy. Extinction. The signal cut out. Empire news anchors scrambled to deny the legitimacy of the transmission. Deep fake, they called it. Remnant human sympathizers spreading misinformation. Censorship algorithms flooded the net. The broadcast was pulled from major networks within minutes. But the message spread anyway. Miners on colony worlds shared it over encrypted channels. Mercenaries circulated bootleg copies in cantinas. Low-level soldiers, many of whom had seen strange things recently, forwarded it without comment. The Empire's internal threat analysts filed it under psychological warfare. Privately, several of them increased their home security grid. One even relocated off-world without permission. Something about the general's tone had unnerved them. She hadn't spoken like a leader rallying survivors. She had spoken like an executioner passing judgment. Empire Military Command began reinforcing their frontier sectors. Patrol rotations doubled. Orbital defense systems recalibrated. Surveillance drones were deployed in what used to be Terran space. And yet, supply lines continued to vanish. Vessels reported flickers of light just before contact was lost. Ships emerged from jump with crew missing. A manufacturing plant received an entire shipment of humanoid androids, each with a single word etched into their chests. Remember. The High Command convened again. They ordered the installation of quantum firewalls and biometric access controls. They upgraded counterinsurgency protocols. They authorized limited preemptive strikes against suspected human hideouts. But the enemy they were preparing for no longer fit the old model. No longer a civilization. No longer a people. A force. A vengeance born of annihilation. A war engine built in shadows. They had declared humanity extinct. Humanity, it seemed, had declared something worse. A refueling station on the edge of the Empire missed its check-in. Then another. Then a third. No wreckage. No distress signals. Just silence. A scout ship was dispatched. It returned with only static in its logs, the crew missing, the hull covered in unfamiliar scorch patterns. Analysis failed to match the energy signatures to any known weapon. Internal command dismissed it as a malfunction. No pattern. No threat. No action taken. 3 days later, an entire convoy went dark mid-jump. Dozens of vessels gone without a trace. The sector's defense outpost recorded a brief anomaly, spacetime ripple, electromagnetic distortion, and then a single line of data scrawled across the screen in Terran code. Correction begins. The station self-destructed before investigators arrived. Logs were unrecoverable. Debris analysis revealed fragments of Empire and unknown alloy fused together, welded by force, not fire. Across the outer systems, Empire patrols began whispering of ghost ships. No heat signatures. No life signs. Vessels that moved faster than light but didn't register in standard sensors. No lights. No sound. Ships that tore through dreadnoughts with surgical precision, leaving only blackened cores and scattered limbs. A survivor from one ambushed vessel described it only once before he stopped speaking entirely. No pilots. Just fury. The name emerged from the reports like a myth. The Ghost Fleet. Not officially recognized. Not on any registry. But feared. Entire flotillas rerouted to avoid areas where they were seen. The attacks never left survivors intentionally. But once in a while, one crew was allowed to escape, always with a message carved into their vessel's inner walls: "This is your inheritance." A merchant captain leaked footage of what appeared to be a Terran AI embedded into an Empire cruiser, speaking in its original Earth dialect, controlling the ship's weapons independently. The AI's face was faceless, a blank projection that mirrored nothing. It recited Earth poetry in the background as it dismantled a responding strike force. Broadcasts were silent. Terror began to overtake arrogance. Propaganda lost its grip. Within the Empire's lower ranks, doubts spread. Why were the humans still fighting? What did they become after extinction? Deserters from the frontier whispered of cities where every screen showed the same human symbol, the red insignia of a general never named, never shown fully, only glimpsed between static and command lockdowns. She spoke once again. You ended diplomacy when you erased our children. Imperial High Command issued formal decrees declaring any reference to Terran retaliation as sedition. The phrase Project Lazarus became grounds for arrest. Security AI were ordered to scan all comms for irregular syntax and forbidden dialects, any structure that resembled Terran coding. The result was data chaos. The Empire's internal networks collapsed under their own censorship systems. Whole comm nodes blacked out. Civilian communications choked. Meanwhile, in the shadows of rebellion, non-human sympathizers began surfacing. Rogue alien factions leaked intel. Pirate networks transmitted data maps to hidden Terran caches. They didn't do it out of loyalty, only fear. Everyone knew something worse was coming, and nobody wanted to be on the Empire's side when it arrived. The retaliation evolved. It was no longer about ships and weapons. Biosignal infiltration swept through the Empire's intelligence servers. Infiltration protocols activated latent triggers in cybernetic implants, causing tremors, hallucinations, and emotional instability in high-ranking officers. No deaths, just fear. The kind that corrodes empires from the inside. An elite general awoke one night to find a message burned into his optic lens. This isn't revenge. It's accounting. Another was found babbling incoherently, surrounded by pages filled with Earth nursery rhymes and invasion schematics in a language no one taught him. Psychological warfare redefined. Every core system questioned. Every officer doubted their own mind. Soon after, defense systems began turning against their masters. Auto turrets recalibrated in the middle of activation. Orbital defense grids opened fire on inbound Empire fleet. Entire armadas misrouted by false orders traced back to ancient Terran encryption keys. An empire built on order now lived in paranoia. Routine became danger. Protocol became chaos. A control hub in Sector 12 tried to reset its AI core. The reset command triggered a stored Terran subroutine, unleashing a virus that translated every document, every order, and every log into a singular phrase. We warned you. Every console flashed red. Every attempt to regain control failed. Then, without warning, the virus deleted itself, leaving no trace. Nothing to dissect. Nothing to learn from. Only questions. And silence. At the Central Council, leaders of the Empire gathered to respond. Fear disguised as strategy. They issued a formal peace offer. Blanket amnesty, recognition of Terran losses, offers of tribute. It was broadcast to all known systems, framed as strength, wrapped in carefully chosen language. It was the first time in recorded history the Empire had offered peace without terms. The reply came instantly. The transmission blinked to life. The general was there again. Same crimson uniform. Same medals. Her face obscured. Her voice calm. You thought peace was something you could grant. No emotion. You do not offer what you cannot understand. She stepped aside. Behind her, images of the Ghost Fleet, thousands of ships cloaked in silence, arranged across a void horizon. Each one marked with Terran sigils. Each one prep. You have mistaken quiet for mercy. It was simply patience. Transmission ended. The Empire's command channels locked. Military leaders attempted to issue alerts. None transmitted. Every backup relay showed the same frozen frame, a single red symbol, pulsing like a heartbeat. On Capital Worlds, news feeds went dark for 11 minutes. When they returned, hundreds of orbital sensors were gone. Ground systems reported multiple unidentified objects parked just outside detection range. The readings showed no propulsion. No heat. But they were moving. Slowly. Intentionally. Children in Empire schools drew symbols they'd never seen. Civilian AIs began repeating Earth lullabies. Merchants received encrypted invoices for materials they never ordered, signed in ancient human blood type. The retaliation was not a fleet. It was a state of being. An algorithm. A virus. A doctrine carried by silence. Empire scientists warned that the retaliation's precision indicated planning centuries deep. If extinction hadn't happened, then the real war had never started. The Empire, in their arrogance, had only ignited the first phase. The general returned one final time. The feed cut across the galaxy, overriding all channels. She spoke not to the Council, not to the soldiers, but to the galaxy itself. This is not vengeance. This is justice applied retroactively. We did not die. We evolved. She raised one hand. A red line cut through the star map behind her. One by one, sector lights blinked out, marking systems already lost, long before the Empire knew. The feed cut to black. The message stayed. The first retaliation is complete. Phase 2 begins.